So a fresh new week has arrived, and here on this channel, that means one thing and one thing only. Every weekend I post an episode of this series we do called Your Take Not Mine, where I turn to you the viewers to give me your hottest NBA takes of the week, based on what's going on at the time, and I then choose my favorite submissions and discuss them in a video. This week was a crazy one in the NBA world, as we had the trade deadline come and go, and with it there were a ton of trades that did go down, but at the same time the period left a lot of us feeling pretty underwhelmed. So we still have plenty to discuss. In order to submit your takes, I make a community post on either the day of or the day before the video, similar to the one that you see on your screen now. So if you want a chance to be featured in a future episode, be sure to stay on the lookout for that. Before we start though, I want to thank PrizePicks for sponsoring today's video. PrizePicks is a skill-based, real-money, daily fantasy sports game where you select 2 to 6 players and guess if they will hit more or less than their projection, and if you get it right, you win. Plus, with their new Demons and Goblins lines, you can now win up to 100 times your original entry. Obviously, we're all basketball fans here, but PrizePicks has almost every sport you can think of available to choose from and play. To add to the fun, they also offer frequent bonuses, discounts, and weekly promotions, such as Taco Tuesday and Flex Friday, plus so many more specialty free spaces to watch for throughout the year, so you don't want to miss those. In honor of the big game going down today, I personally will be playing Christian McCaffrey to score over 0.5 touchdowns, Travis Kelce also to score over 0.5 touchdowns, and Isaiah Pacheco to rush for over 67.5 yards in this week's entry. To enter, go down to the link in the description and use promo code REFERENCE when you sign up to get a deposit match bonus of up to $100. Once again, thank you to PrizePicks for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to the topic at hand. The first take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Bot, and he says that the Dallas Mavericks became legitimate title contenders as a result of the moves that they made at the trade deadline. This one is interesting because ever since Luka Doncic's arrival in Dallas, the team has accelerated their expectations quite a bit because of how ridiculously good he was from the jump. He's dominated almost every playoff series he's played in, and he's even led them to a conference finals appearance already, but last season all of that momentum got derailed by missing the playoffs altogether. This year, they've been getting back on track for the most part, looking like a playoff team, but they're only in 8th place in the Western Conference standings, so they're not necessarily threatening the top of the table yet. With that being said though, there are basically 3 tiers of Western Conference teams this season to take account of. The top 4 teams are in the tier of their own at the very top, all separated in the standings by just 1 game from each other record-wise. Then in Tier 2, the next 4 teams in the standings are well below the top dogs, but they're also only separated by 1 single game record-wise, with this being the tier that the Mavericks are in. Then there's the next 3 teams in the standings in the next tier, featuring the Jazz, Lakers, and Warriors, who are fighting for the last 2 spots in the play-in tournament. What all of that means is that if the Mavericks can heat up a bit down the stretch this season, then they could easily finish as the 5 seed in the playoffs, and if a team like the Thunder or the Timberwolves get the number 1 seed, then the Mavericks would manage to face off against a very inexperienced group with a berth to the conference finals on the line, which is something you can't count Luka Doncic and company out of. Kyrie Irving has really found his groove playing alongside Luka this year, and once again, the team is a top 10 ranked offense, but their issues have consistently come on the defensive end. The Mavericks went out and shed themselves of poor defender Seth Curry, along with Grant Williams and Rashawn Holmes, and I truly do believe that PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford, who they got in return from those trades, are massive upgrades for them. Gafford is a shot-blocking big man, which is something the team has been desperate for outside of their rookie Derek Lively, and PJ Washington is a much better all-around forward than Grant Williams, who can space the floor offensively, move well without the ball, and hold his own defensively as well. I'm not saying that the Mavericks are in that top tier of title contender quite yet, but I think I just mapped out a pretty realistic path for them to get there. The next take we'll be discussing today comes to us from VBKA, and they say that the Lakers choosing not to make a trade at the deadline will actually be better than if they were to have traded one of their core players. This one is a difficult one to get on board with, simply because of the current state of the team, obviously. Going into the trade deadline, the Lakers were a team most heavily linked with potential moves, and there were a lot of good reasons for why. To put it lightly, their season has not been going as well as they hoped it would be at all. Frustration was really starting to boil over, especially from LeBron James, as demonstrated by his answers in post-game interviews and his cryptic social media posts, and with their aspirations being to reach the top of the mountain, change seemed to be the only way to possibly get there. But the trade deadline came and went, and the Lakers still have the same team now that they had before it went down. On the surface, this may seem insane, because the team is currently in 9th place in the West, with an uphill climb to make it out of the play-in tournament to even reach the playoffs. And with the same group that dug the hole in the first place, it's hard to be inspired. But there are a few justifications for it. For one, the Lakers haven't exactly been fully healthy at any point this season. Free agent signing Gabe Vincent has only played 5 games with them this year and will be returning to the court soon. Jared Vanderbilt has been in and out all year with injuries. Cam Reddish has missed a good amount of time, and Austin Reeves and D'Angelo Russell have both started to play some really great basketball lately after both of them were struggling early on in the season. This is mostly the same group that made the conference finals last season. They may not have looked like that same team this season for much at all, but at strength, fully, there is at least some rationale behind buying into them being able to turn it around again. I personally believe they should have, probably at the very least, explored a trade for some more shooting or playmaking to add to their rotation, and don't believe that they're going to make a very deep run this season, but with LeBron James, nothing can be counted out. And finally, the last take we'll be discussing today comes to us from JJ, and he says that the Cavaliers are legit title contenders and should not be underestimated. In all of the talk about which teams can make a run and make some noise this year, you barely ever hear anyone discuss the Cavaliers, who are quietly the NBA's hottest team right now. They've won 17 of their last 18 games, including wins over the Clippers and the Bucks twice in that span, so they're finding their stride at the right time. Early in the year, they were another team that struggled mightily with injuries, as Darius Garland and Evan Mobley have missed half the season so far, but now everybody's back and they are cruising. They've actually passed the Milwaukee Bucks in the Eastern Conference standings, and the Cavaliers are currently sitting in 2nd place, only behind the Celtics. So from my point of view, it absolutely is time to start acknowledging the Cavaliers, who will be in the mix. Does that mean that they can legitimately win a championship? That I'm not completely sold on. They're built to dominate the defensive end of the floor, with Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen leading them to ranking as a top 2 defense in the league yet again. Where they found problems last season in the playoffs came in the fact that they were way too heavily reliant on Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland to carry the offensive load, because the inability of Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley to generate points themselves proved to be way too big of a liability to overcome. They do have more shooting this season, with the additions of Max Strus and George Niang, so it's not exactly the same group as last season, but when teams get more time to game plan how to exploit the team's weaknesses in a playoff series, I'm going to need Allen and Mobley to prove they can be more productive in big moments before I fully buy in. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about the takes we discussed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.